Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm here with the fourth and currently final part of my Redesigning Old OC series. If you haven't been watching, I've been taking the OCs that I designed back in middle school and revamping them to a more better design than they had before. I had only just begun getting into drawing when I designed these characters, so I wasn't the best at a lot of things when it came to art. I also had a very basic understanding of design principles and characters in general. I had a lot of ideas. I had no idea how to implement them, so all of them looked almost exactly the same. My only character defining features were hairstyles and hair color and eye color. That was the only way I could differentiate characters. So I thought it would be fun if I tried to redesign them in my more current design ideas. Please start from episode 1 if you want to catch up. I've actually redesigned 9 characters up to this point, and this video will be redesigning 3 more. It's actually the only 3 left. I have way more characters, but at this current time, I have only redesigned 12 of them. But if people want to see more, I'll definitely dive into more redesigns. I've been having a lot of fun reviving my love for these characters. They were the first things I ever made, you know? They have a special place in my heart. So, for those who aren't aware, I've been designing them in a more fantasy-esque look. The plot of the original story featured these characters coming from a parallel world where everything was more fantasy-like. Because of this, I thought giving them more fantasy medieval outfits would make a lot more sense than them just wearing the t-shirts and pants that they had before. Because of this, I've been using D&D classes to base their outfits off of, just so I have a baseline of some sort of outfit they can be wearing. Up until this point, I've only been designing the heroic characters, or at least the ones that side on the more hero side of things. With these last 3, I'll be diving into some of the villains of this story. Their levels of villainy are definitely different, and their reasonings are different, but they were all characters who our heroes fought at some point. So, to start this off, we're going to be looking at this girl right here. Her name is Fuu Korra, and she is not only one of the main villains, but she was also a love interest to our main character, Kumori. She is a dragon, and she had the ability to move metal. She was basically just a metal bender. She would carry around knives that she could basically move using her mind because they're made out of metal. I don't think I ever specified why she is a villain in the original story, but when I was going into this, I was thinking a bit more about it. She definitely isn't like some of the other characters we meet later because she is not a big main villain. Her motives don't match the motives of a lot of the other bad guys here. So I thought it would make sense if she was kind of like a mercenary, a villain for hire, if you will. She kind of just does whatever job will pay her. So in this, she would have been hired on the bad side of things to stop our heroes. But over time, she does switch sides. In the original story, she does end up with our titular hero. They have a lot in common, I think without even realizing it, since our hero used to be a villain as well. So for her character, since she's kind of more like a supporting role, and her whole thing is that she's a hot lady, and that our hero is kind of unable to fight her because of how good looking she is, I thought a bard would make a lot of sense for her character. Bards are usually the, let's say, seductive type. If you've ever played either with a bard or as a bard, I'm sure you're very aware of the shenanigans bards tend to get into. I thought this would fit her well since she kind of seduces our main character throughout the story. So with that out of the way, I went right into her design. Like the others, I started out with a pose for a body that fit her personality. I also sketched in her dragon parts as well. First off was her hair. Originally, she had a hairstyle that a lot of my characters had. If you place drawings of all my long-haired female characters next to each other, from back then and you didn't color them in, you probably would have no way of telling them apart at all. Everyone had the same haircut, the same hairline. There was nothing that could really show them apart if you were just looking at their silhouette or looking at them in a black and white space. You did have something interesting going on where I tried to put the spikes of a dragon into her hair, which is why she had very spiky hair in her back of her head. Because of this, I wanted to implement the spikiness into the new hair design, so I knew her hair would have to be a bit of a mess and not perfectly straight. I also thought it would be cool if her hair came into her face, kind of like she has some fangs. Then I just kind of sketched out her hair length. I wanted to keep it long like it was before, but not too long, keeping it towards her mid-back and just defining where it would be. So after the hair came her outfit. I had some Bard references pulled up, and I definitely wanted to go more towards the purple character that I had found. The chest window look of that character versus the other character that had more legs showing, I thought would definitely be more her style. She is supposed to be more of a seductive character, but she also spends a lot of time hiding and staying in the shadows and being kind of a mercenary. So I wanted to keep her covered as well. I didn't want her to be standing out while she was fighting, since, like I said, she is more of a supporting role in the back, doing more secret spy kind of missions than being up front. So I kept the hood cloak thing that I saw one of the bards had. Thought this would be a good addition to her need to hide her face. I then played around a lot with her bottom half. I wasn't sure what kind of dress or cloak I wanted her to be wearing. After a couple of attempts, I thought that having one shorter front part would make a lot of sense for her. I still wanted there to be some skin or some emphasis on parts of her and not completely 100% covered, so that made sense to me. I roughed out the other half of her bottom, but later I will change it because I am not satisfied with it, mainly because her tail placement, I wanted to make sure it made sense that her tail could be coming from underneath her cloak without it being just sticking through a hole. Her legs were pretty straightforward to me. I wanted to give her boots because I didn't want any metal on her. She's supposed to be moving quietly, so that was pretty easy to figure out. I then decided that she would be wearing the high socks, kind of like one of the references I had, just so she could be showing a bit of leg, just to add to her seduction part. Then I do here change her bottom cloak to match what I was talking about before. Then it was her arms. I gave her fingerless gloves. I thought she might need her fingers if she's using her abilities, if she needs to touch the metal that she is bending, but I also wanted to keep her palms covered since she throws around a lot of knives. You know, that can get pretty dangerous if she loses control or something. Her shirt top, I decided to not make it fully long sleeve, but stop it a little bit before her glove begins, so again we can show some skin. I then roughed out a very simple pattern idea, and then with that I was done. So I'm gonna go line this and then we'll come back to color. Okay, so I have lined and filled her in with a basic color. So first was hair color. Definitely kept it black like it had been originally. Her original color scheme was black and brown, so I wanted to stick with what I originally had. Whenever I have characters with black hair, I always pick a black that isn't pure black. One, no human in real life actually has pitch black hair. It's actually just extremely dark brown. And two, when it comes time to shade, if you have something that's pitch black, you'll find it impossible to add shadows because it can't get any darker than what color you have already. So usually I stick with a more lighter black color. I make sure that it's a color that I can work with. Next was her skin tone. She was one of the few characters I had that had originally had a darker skin. I've said this in other videos, but I had mostly white characters. I honestly was just using the colored pencil that I had. I only drew with colored pencils at the time, and I had a peach colored pencil that I used. So I had a lot of characters with the same peach skin tone. But she was one of the few who got the tan treatment in the original designs. I think this was because her color scheme was black and brown, because the inside of her wings were brown. So I decided her skin would be a brown color too, so I could just keep the same colors and not have to pull out more colored pencils. So because of this, again, I kept her darker skin. If you watched episode 3 of this, you will know I actually prefer darker skinned characters. I have more fun playing around with color schemes when the character has a darker skin tone than a lighter. I just find a lot more colors work with it. I wasn't complaining when it came time to color her. Next was the inside of her wings. Like I said, her whole thing was brown and black, so the inside of her wings were brown, but I did not want to go with the same brown I had in original design because it was just the same color as her skin. I wanted to make sure it was different enough that you knew this wasn't skin and that this was part of her wings, but also keep it in the same color range. So I play around with a couple browns, some that are dull and gray, some that are very vibrant, but I go with this middle ground color. It's a color that isn't really a skin tone. It's a bit dull to be the color of skin, so it works enough where you know, okay, this isn't the same part as you saw before. Next, I had to decide on her outfit color. So, black and brown were on my mind, but I didn't want to just make her outfit black and brown. I don't find brown to be the most appealing color when it comes to the main color of a character's design. So I wanted the black to play a better part, but since there's a lot of black already going on because of her long hair, her tail, and her wings, I decided to go for more of a gray tone. I also was thinking about how her ability is to control metal, and when you think of metal, you think of silver. So I thought this would fit perfectly into her main color design for her outfit. So knowing that her body was going to be silver, I went into what her cloak would be. Since her main color was in the black family, I decided that her cloak had to be somewhat brown. Again, I wanted to make sure it did not match her skin tone and did not match her wing color. So I went with this red, dark brown color. It's a color that if you weren't looking closely enough, you might mistake for a black. I then played around with a few tones of the silver and picked a very mid-ground silver color. I wanted it to be different enough also from her buckle color, since her clasp on her cloak, her button, are made from metal as well. I want it to be obvious that they are metal and that she is not wearing metal, and that when you put the two colors next to each other, you could tell the difference. Next, I went into her gloves. I decided to keep them in the same color range. I decided to keep them the same general color as her cloak. I've said this in past videos, but when it comes to picking colors for characters, I find it much better to have less colors than having 5 million different colors all within the same range of each other. Not only will it save you time when it comes to color picking or making color palettes, but it also unifies a character so much more than if you just spewed a rainbow out on a character. I also colored her boots that same brown as well as her belt. Again, keeping everything within the same color field. I made the color a little different than her cloak because I wanted to make sure you could tell the difference between the two parts if, say, she was touching it, or the belt, since it is right up on the cloak. But again, it's not crazy different, where if you were zoomed out or not looking close enough, you would not be able to tell the difference. Next, I colored in her leggings. I went with a black, since that's a very common legging color, and it also fits right into her color scheme. I made them just a bit darker than her hair color, just because her tail is right there by her legs, and I wanted to make sure you knew the difference between the two parts. Then I added just a lighter color to the boots and the gloves, just to show the difference between the two parts, but it's a color that's not crazy different from the original. Then it was the middle part of her outfit. Again, silver, because that was the idea I had for her outfit. I didn't want to go so black because her leggings were right there and they were black, so I just went with a little bit of a darker gray. I then decided that that would be the accent color for the rest of her outfit, so I took that gray and I added the pattern that I originally sketched to the lighter parts of her outfit. I also then took the light color and made that the accent of the middle part. Once again, just to keep all the colors the same throughout the outfit to unify everything so it actually looks like these pieces belong together. Well, okay, with that, I have finished coloring Fuu Korra. So now I'm going to speed us through me shading and we'll come back when I'm done. Fuu Korra then, and here is her now. I like how this one came out. She's got a lot of personality. I think she is more character than I had originally, for sure. Like I said, she was a villain for no reason in my original story. She was just there to get with the main character. So through my design process, I had a lot of thinking about who she is and why she is there, and played a large role in this new design. And I'm happy with this. I'm happy with her. She's more than just a piece to look at now. I will say my original drawings of her weren't the hottest. Every character looked the same, so if I wanted a character to be eye-pleasing, well, that wasn't something I knew how to do. I think she looks a little bit more manipulative now, for sure. I like that a lot. She's a strong woman, that's for sure. So, for this next one, it's gonna seem weird that I'm designing this character next and not the one I have set last, just because this is technically the main villain. She is the big bad, the #1 anti-hero, whatever you want to call her. But I've decided to put her next in this order because even though she is the main bad guy, the last character I have planned does play a bigger role in the story than she does. I know that sounds weird, like she's the main bad guy, so why would she not play the most important role? Like, think about it this way. In Fire Emblem Echoes, the main villain is the king of the other kingdom, technically. But he's not the one you interact with the most. You interact with Berkut more than you interact with the king, his uncle. You don't really see his uncle that much. He's kind of just talked about in relationship to the war, while you actually fight and see the story of Berkut more than the king. Of course, spoilers, if you've played the game, you know what happens in the end. So Berkut is very, very important. So if we think about things in that way, this next character is like the king, but the last character is like a pawn who you actually interact with. Sorry if you've never played Fire Emblem Echoes, just saying you should. It's a really good game. Anyway, this is Nota. She is the big bad. She doesn't look like a lot, but looks can be deceiving. I actually didn't design her originally. When I was making this story, I had a really, really good friend who was kind of like my co-writer. I would just kind of tell her everything I was coming up with, and she would listen and she would take part and add her own plot points if needed. And she designed this character. At this time, we didn't really have a story yet. She kind of just drew a few characters and I took them. So shout out to Faith for listening to my spiels back then and being a part of this wonderful journey with me. Check her out, yo. She cosplays real good stuff. Anyway, Faith's original design for Nota was that she was a Pegasus, but she gave her kind of bat-like wings, less so bird wings, which you originally associate with Pegasus. Because of this, it made her seem more evil, since bats are usually associated more with like vampires and dark things like that, while the bird wings are usually angels or angelic being kind of thing. I think this played a part into why I thought she would be a good villain, was the whole sharp pointy wings thing. She had a weird color scheme. She had green and black hair, and then her wings were black and pink, and so was her horn, and she wore green and black, and it was all over the place. Of all the old characters, she definitely had the most wildest color scheme for sure. Her superpower was mind control. She was basically mind controlling almost every other villain in this story throughout the entire story. She never turned it off. Everyone who our good guys fought, if she hadn't paid them, then she was controlling them to do her bidding for her. She actually is controlling the next character, which is why she is the king and he is the pawn in this situation. Although she doesn't actively do a lot in the fighting sense, she is behind everything that is going on. All she wants is to destroy our world. In this world, they have the world they come from, which is the fantasy animal world, which is a parallel world to the human world where we live. She wants to destroy our modern world so the fantasy world can continue living. The two worlds were like slowly destroying each other. In order to save one universe, you had to completely destroy the other universe because the connection was unstable. So if both live, both would be destroyed. If you wanted one to live, you had to destroy the other before everything collapsed. So she wants to save the animal world. The good guys want to save both worlds. They don't want anything to collapse, and they're trying to figure out how can we solve this. But she doesn't care. She will do anything to just say goodbye to the human world. There's a lot more details about specifics in her story that I could get into, but we'd be here a long time. I really delved deep into her character since she played such a close role with our main character Kumori. They were basically connected, so whatever happened to Kumori played a role in her story as well. And since Kumori was the character I spent the most time on, she also got that treatment just because of their connection. All I will say is Kumori used to be evil and on her side of things, and then she betrayed him and wiped his memory with her mind powers, which is why he's now good and doesn't remember anything. Knowing she is the mastermind behind all of this, and that her power is mind control, a magic type class in D&D made sense. I decided to make her a wizard since she isn't as unhinged as, say, a warlock would be. And I'm saving warlock for the last character in this list. So I already designed a basic body for her. At this point, I was unsure if I wanted to keep her as a Pegasus or not. I knew I wanted to go in the Batwing direction, but I wasn't sure if the horn made sense anymore with this character. I thought it would work since it is in her forehead, which usually has mind connection associated with it. But in the end, I decided to just nix the horn and focus more on the wing aspect of her character. So she went from being a bat Pegasus thing to now just being a bat-like character. So starting off was the hair. She had long, straight hair originally. It was divided, the front half green and the back half black. I used to just divide it with a literal line in her hair, but I didn't think that was very realistic at this point, so I decided to change it up. I stuck with the straight hair idea. I didn't want to give any bumps or little hair bits coming off. Her bangs, I was unsure about. At first, I thought maybe she would have literal bangs in the middle, like a middle part, but after thinking about her character and looking at her design, it made more sense to just have her hair pushed back. This also implies the whole mind powers thing. A lot of characters who have mind-bending abilities of some kind usually have an exposed forehead. It kind of goes to the whole third eye idea. And then roughed in the rest of her hair, again, just keeping it long and straight and nothing crazy going on. It was then time to figure out her outfit. I went through a few ideas. Wizards wear long cloaks, so I knew I needed to include a cloak of some kind, and I knew it had to have long sleeves somewhere. A lot of these robes that they wear have these very large open sleeves. At first I tried it a long sleeve style where the long open sleeve happens up by her wrist, but because of the pose that I had her in, I was struggling a little bit to figure out how the sleeve would be affected in this pose. So I decided to go with the long sleeve underneath the short sleeve look. I made the open robe sleeve be short and then just added a cloth long sleeve underneath. Now, since she had 2 parts to her outfit, thought her long robe would make sense if it was open, so you could see which part was her under part and which part is the long cloak up top. I gave her a belt like every other character that you've seen so far. Since her whole outfit is a long, flowy cloak, I wanted something to hold it all together to her body so it would stay put when she's moving around. So belt was the best option that I had. So when it came to the middle part, I had a few thoughts. At first, I went with the short middle part that I have had for a few other characters, and then I split her top half down the middle as if it's a shirt kind of look. But I was thinking about it, and that didn't really make sense since the entire thing was one part. Her long sleeves, her top, the bottom, it's all the same shirt dress thing. So I decided to go for a long dress instead. First, thought maybe I could still implement the middle part, since sometimes the robes of wizards have this kind of look going on, but it just looked a little weird, and later I decided that it's a little too much and I change it. I did sketch in her shoes really quick. I wanted her to have these tiny little boots going on. They're very, very small, not long boots like everyone else has been having. I did have them at an angle, so I had to make sure that I implemented that. Once I had the shoes in though, that's when I started noticing I didn't really like what I had going on the top half, so I just went right into full-on dress for her outfit. I do a lot of playing around with this. A lot of the angles weren't hitting correctly the first sketch I made, so I do a bit of moving of the legs, and I then just sketch the whole thing underneath the cloak so I can see how it connects to her body, and then re-put in the shoes and whatnot. With this, I've actually finished the sketch, so I'm gonna line this and we'll come back to do all the colors. Alright, so line art is done, and I filled her in with a basic color, and now we will go into picking her colors. So I started with her skin on this one, because I had yet to figure out how I wanted to implement the two-tone hair. I knew she would be white, so I picked a light brown tone. I wanted her more in the brown range than the pink range. I wanted her skin not to be very blushy and lively. She's an evil mastermind, so I didn't think having cute flushed skin would be making a lot of sense for her. Next was getting into the hair. I started off just coloring everything green, since I knew I definitely wanted the green in her hair. I don't have that many characters with green hair over black hair, and it definitely makes her look a little different, so sticking with the green as the base color made sense. At first I thought I would do a kind of stocking style from Panty and Stocking, where the inside of her hair is a different color, but instead I went more towards the route that I had with my character Shima from episode 2, where her hair is more like a gradient. It starts green and then becomes black on the bottom. I was thinking about how it made more sense this way, especially if I was drawing this character from a different angle than straight on, how difficult it would be to implement the inside black, outside green thing, especially with the style of hair I've given her. So gradient made a little more sense. I then filled in her wings the same green color, and the inside of her wings match the black of the bottom of her hair. So next came her outfit. Because I basically nixed all of the pink from her original design, I thought giving her a pink outfit would then bring it back towards that original idea. Like I said, her original colors for her wings and her horn were pink and black, but since I wanted to keep her character more unified and match her wings to her hair color now, kept her wings black and green instead of putting pink in them. So I thought I wanted to put pink somewhere in her design, so I decided that that would be the base color for her outfit. First idea I had was making the outer cloak this light pink color and making the inner cloak a more white color. I actually decided to change this, mainly because I didn't want her main color to be so light. She is a villain, and you don't usually think of bright colors when you think of villains. so making the color that stands out the most on her a light color didn't end up making a lot of sense. I also made her inner dress black first, and then I started to realize I wasn't digging this. I also realized I wanted the inner dress to match her sleeves since it's all the same thing. It's one outfit, they're not different parts. So I tried this black and then this gray, and I noticed very quickly I don't like it because it's too similar to the outer color I had, and you have a hard time telling one from the other. If you're ever curious and unsure how your colors are playing off each other, you can actually switch your canvas into grayscale and you can see the difference in tones. And if two colors are way too similar in tone, you know something needs to change because you want to be able to tell the difference of colors when they are black and white. You don't want everything to look exactly the same throughout if it turns black and white. But before I fix that up, I go into the shoes. I go for a dark brown color, wanting to keep this black going throughout and also wanting to emphasize that these are leather. I also then match her belt to that color to keep colors throughout her scheme unified. And now is when I go into changing the color of her outfit. You'll see I go through a lot of pinks and a lot of purples until I find one that I'm actually satisfied with. It does end up being purple more so than pink, but her dress underneath does turn pinker than before, so I think that makes up for it. Definitely think these are working better for her. Not only is her major color a darker color, but the two colors are not so close in hue that you wouldn't be able to really distinguish one from the other. Then it was adding just some accents to the outfit. I didn't go crazy with her. For this, I just added a bit of a darker outline on her robe. And then for her dress, I just put this bright pink highlight in the middle, wanting to again give her some of that pink stripe she had from before. Okay, that I've actually finished her colors. So let's speed on through some shading and we will come back when she's done. Okay, so here is Nota then, and here is her now. She definitely looks unassuming and yet a little bit evil, which is what I want. I don't want her to look like she is this big evil bad person. She's supposed to look like she is just one of the underlings. You're not supposed to realize she's the one pulling all the strings when you first meet her. That's something that you learn over time throughout the story. You know, there's hints to it, but the reveal that it's her this whole time is supposed to be a bit shocking. I think this design does it. She looks like she's planning something. So now it is time for the final character for this final episode. I hinted at him a little bit while talking about Nota. This character is the antagonist in which our heroes engage with the most. He is not the big bad. He is just the most crazy of all of them for a majority of the story until you learn that Nota is actually mind controlling everybody and behind all of this. He seems to be the one in charge. Everyone else listens to him. He has this air about him that makes others follow him, but he is actually being mind controlled this entire time. So this personality that we meet isn't his true self. It is just him under Nota's influence. This character is named Shi-Kyo. He is a cat, and he has the same ability as our main character, Kumori. He is the opposite of Kumori in every way, but at the same time, the same. For in Kumori's story, he was evil and then had his memory erased, so now he is good. While Shi-Kyo was good and was tasked with tracking down Kumori and stopping him, but now he is mind controlled and is the ultimate evil that our heroes must face. Kumori doesn't understand his powers when he first gets pushed back into this whole mess. He doesn't know what he is or what he can do. And Shi-Kyo is a master of his abilities. Because of this, Kumori takes a lot from Shi-Kyo accidentally through their fights. He learns from him, which in reality, all of the moves and abilities Shi-Kyo has, he developed while studying Kumori when Kumori was evil. They would interact and fight all the time before the whole memory thing happened. So Shi-Kyo developed his powers through fighting Kumori, and now Kumori is redeveloping his powers through fighting Shi-Kyo. It's just the cycle that continues forever and ever and ever. I didn't draw Shi-Kyo in his good character. I'm sticking with him being evil since that is how we see him a majority of the time. He is a little crazy. He will do everything and stop at nothing to get what he wants. He's basically how Nota would act if she wasn't trying to be so secretive. He is basically there to do all of the dirty work that Nota doesn't want to do, which involves a lot of destruction. Because of his insaneness and his ability to control darkness and shadows and things like that, I decided that he would be a warlock. Warlocks are usually dark mages who have kind of uncontrollable abilities that come from some sort of demonic pact or whatnot. And this seemed extremely fitting for his character. So I've already drawn out a body in a pose that I think definitely shows his character. So the first thing was his hair. A majority of my male characters had the same hairstyle, just as a majority of my female characters had the same hairstyle. It was a bit messy and then short when they were humans so we could see their human ears, and then suddenly super long when they were animals so it would cover up their fake human ears. As you can tell from past designs, I've gotten rid of the whole ears, no ears thing and have just given them human ears no matter what. But with him, I decided to stick with his longer hair from when he would have his animal form. Since I'm going insane for his character, I thought having this crazy long messy hair would make a lot of sense. It looks as if he hasn't brushed it in a couple years and he is in desperate need for a haircut. I think I spent a bit too long deciding on how his hair is gonna fall because I end up just covering it later, so it seems kind of pointless looking back now. I also do a bit of fixing on his ears placement. Then it was time to go into his outfit. I definitely wanted him to have a crazy high collar. Not only is it like a super villainous thing to have, but a lot of sorcerers have these big high pointy collars as well. I then played around with exactly what this collar is attached to. At first I went for a kind of cape look where I had it on his shoulders with a clasp in the middle, but I did not like how it was looking, especially in the pose I had. So instead I went for a giant jacket kind of look where the collar is coming from the big cloak-like jacket he is wearing. At first I added this belt that's like this big belt. I actually ended up changing it later to a smaller belt because I didn't think it was working that well for him. I decided to give him the super long drape in the front. Again, another common magical wizard user kind of look. For him, I decided that he would have long sleeves. It was the idea I had for Nota originally, but I turned hers into short sleeves. But with him, since he's wearing this big long cloak, I thought long sleeves definitely made a little more sense. It also makes him look a bit more dark and evil and sinister with the big draping hand things. I then sketched in a gauntlet kind of thing on his wrists. You can't really see what they really are since most of it's covered by his cloak, but I actually attach it to how I design his shirt area as well. I give him kind of this armor on his shirt, and that is actually attached to the glove things he's wearing. It's one long kind of armor piece. Here you can see I make the belt smaller. He has such a big cloak that having a huge belt seemed kind of distracting from the cloak element. I also end up moving his tail down a little bit just so it looks more like it's coming from underneath his cloak and not just a hole in his back. For shoes, I wanted him to have sort of big, heavy boots going on. I sketch a bit about where the armor would be when underneath his cloak, but obviously later when I clean it up, you can't see it at all. It was just so I could figure out how things would attach. I also add a little bit of a pattern just so I can have a place to begin when coloring that later. And I spruce up his shoes a little bit. And with that, I have finished Shi-Kyo's sketch. So I'm gonna go line this and we will come back for some colors. Okay, so not only did I line and fill him in, but I also threw in some darkness blobs, which represents his ability, just so that's already done and taken care of. So for colors, first off was his hair color. His hair was originally supposed to be this deep dark purple, but like I said before, I was drawing with colored pencils and I had a single purple color. So in order to get dark purple, I would just color him purple and then color over the purple with black. But you could obviously tell that's what I did because none of it was blended or anything. It was just like there were black lines inside of the purple. It was a bit messy. I did my best. But for this I decided, well, I can just go straight dark purple. I don't need to fake it. So I picked a super dark purple color. This color is very much almost black, and I kind of like that. It's part of his evilness, I guess you can say. Next was his skin tone. I played around with him a bit for a couple reasons. In the original one, he was one of my tan colored characters. He got the tan colored pencil, not the peach colored pencil. So I knew he had to have a bit of a darker skin tone. At first, I think I went way too light. He was more white than I wanted him to be. So I then darkened it a bit. I definitely didn't want to saturate his skin tone. I wanted him to look like he's been hiding in a cave all his life and he hasn't seen sunlight in a long time. So I was trying to stick with colors that didn't have a lot of saturation going on. You can see me play around a bit with darks and lights on how dark I want his skin to get, but the color I land with, I think it's a good color for him. It doesn't clash too much with his hair by being too dark, but it's also not so light that he's now a white guy. His eyes were originally purple, so I wanted to stick with that, of course. I just made them a bit more saturated than his hair, just so you could tell a little bit of difference between hair and eye color. Finally, it was clothing time. I knew I wanted dark colors for his color theme. When he was good, I'm sure he wore not such dark, brooding clothing, but I wanted him to look as sinister as possible, so blacks and dark purples made the most sense for him. Purple because his colors to begin with were always this deep dark purple, and also it matches his ability. I really wanted to emphasize that yes, he is an evil dude. He's supposed to distract you from who the true villain is. You're not supposed to question that he is an evil guy. You're just supposed to accept it. So these deep black colors and dark purples were a part of that whole idea. Like I said before, his armor undershirt attached to his gloves, so they are the same deep black. He also has this kind of skirt cloak thing that's a part of the middle piece. So I also wanted to match that with the top half just to keep everything under his cloak uniform. For his boots, I wanted a deep brown color. Since they are leather, they are not metal, but I did not want them to be a light color, again, to keep everything super dark. I also kept it super unsaturated. I really wanted everything in his design to be super dark and lacking of color. This was relating back to how he is being mind controlled this whole time. The lack of color in his body and on his clothes is in relationship to how he has no control over what he's doing, as in the light in him doesn't exist, so the light on his body also doesn't exist. I then went into adding an accent color throughout his his outfit. This is where I added some lightness. I kind of wanted to push the idea that his outfit is glowing. It's not literally glowing, but it's supposed to give off that look. I wanted him to seem a bit more magical, so I saturated this part. I actually went very light at first, but I thought light wasn't the way to go. It was saturation that I wanted. So I actually go back over it with a brighter purple pink color. Okay, so that I had finished coloring Shi-Kyo. So we will speed on through me shading him, and we will come back when he's done. Okay, so here is Shi-Kyo then, and here is him now. I think I got the evil part of him across. He looks a bit insane, and that's what I wanted. If you put him and Nota next to each other and you knew nothing about what I've been talking about, I am sure you would think he is the super evil guy and not her. Shi-Kyo was always a fun villain. He had been mind controlled from day one of his creation, but it took me a long time to decide who he was before that. I knew he had to be important since he plays such a big role in the whole story, but I didn't want his importance to be just that he is mind controlled and he is a bit nutso because of it. There's obviously more to him than just being batshit insane. He's got more going on, which I didn't really talk about here since the insanity played such a major role in how I was designing him. But he's actually very charismatic. Even though he is quick to jump to destruction, he is also very smart and good at planning things. He has a lot of back and forths with Kumori throughout the story. They play off each other a lot, and he is very much an asshole towards him. He's snarky and talks trash all the time. You know, I always thought he made a pretty good villain. He plays off our main character pretty well. Wow. Alright, so that's it. This is the end of this saga. Like I said in the beginning, I have not redesigned anyone else. I do have more characters that I could give this same treatment to, but at this date and time, I have not done so yet, so this is gonna be where this series ends for now. If the feedback is good, people like this, people want to see more, I will do more. Please leave a comment if you want more of this. Let me know. I personally enjoy it a lot. Let me know who's your favorite. If you haven't seen the other 3 videos before this, please go watch them so you can see all 12 characters and let me know who is the best character. This is very important. But seriously, thank you for watching. Thank you to those who have been commenting up until this point. I really appreciate it. If you don't follow me already, I have links to my Twitter and my Instagram in the description. I post a lot of art on both those places, and I also just talk about stuff. I have been drawing these characters a lot lately, so if you head on over there, you might see some art of these characters that aren't just me designing them. Check out other videos that aren't just this series. I am actually an animator, so I have animation content on here, if you would believe that. I also make a lot of animatics, if you enjoy those. And I have some other videos where I talk about other art stuff. If you do like animation, you can watch me animate. I have a whole series where I recorded myself animating, and you can watch my process. Besides all that, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate every last one of you from the bottom of my heart. Stay safe in these times. Do some drawing. Thank you again. Peace.